Hi, I'm Katie, and this is episode 75 of Ornamentations. That's so many episodes, and it's very fitting because it's going to be a big one. I have so much for you today that I'm sitting very gingerly on my couch because I'm surrounded by stuff, which makes for very awkward sitting, but usually a really good Flosstube because lots to talk about. So what do I have for you today? I have mega progress on my webs. Oh man. My needle has been blazing. It's been 3 weeks since I've seen you because we had the sparkling wreath tutorial last week, which is now up on my channel. If you haven't seen it, oh, love it. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? It's so fun and it's so sparkly. Fabulous. Anyways, so I've been using that time to do lots of stitching and it's been quite productive. We also have the Christmas in July kit releases. As seen here, this is one of the kits on offer. Stacy Nash Wonderful Life Pink Keep Drum. I have some haul to share with you. Some pretty good haul too. And I'm also going to do a mini finished parade of my 12 by 12 ornament series since we're halfway through the year. I've got 6 finishes to show you and to celebrate Christmas in July. If you've been a long-term viewer of my channel, you know that I love Christmas. I love Christmas stitching. I love Christmas ornaments. So Christmas in July is my theme music and we're gonna party today to celebrate that. I also have 3 surprise finishes because I've been busy. I've been having lots and lots of fun. And then I also have a giveaway to celebrate Christmas in July with you all, and we'll have that at the very end. But we'll start today with the kit releases and a very special thanks to my mother, without whom this would not have been possible. She ironed every single piece of linen. She helped me wrap all of the fabrics and assemble these into full kits that are ready to go to ship out to you and now available on my website. There are 2 on offer today, well, 2 new ones in addition to what I have. And what are they? Well, I will tell you. The first one is Stacy Nash Wonderful Life Pink Keep Drum. Please note that all of the kits do not include the charts, which you have to provide. These are just materials. And the Wonderful Life drum is $78, and that includes all of your materials. And I just want to show the finish first for a minute because I think that's awesome. I love the gray, the silver, the green, the red, the way they all work together. That is just fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. And then of course I've done it with the wreath framing the house, which looks great. Seriously, so pleased with that. And your kit includes a very large cut of legacy linen 38 count Himalayan Fog, which is what I used for mine, as well as the coordinating gray silk satin that's used for the top and the bottom of the drum finish. It goes perfectly with the threads. I could not have found anything better if I had searched the earth for it. And then all of the threads used. Take a closer look at those. I've got a separate pack here. And those are just fantastic. This is such a just versatile palette. I've really enjoyed putting all of these together, actually, just to have the joy of handling and looking at all the pretty threads. Is that weird? It's probably weird, but I absolutely loved it. And I am showing this displayed on a little pedestal from Amazon that's linked in the tutorial, and the sparkling wreath. This is just, I love it, you guys. It's so easy, whether you're doing this with the drum or with something else. It probably takes under an hour to do the whole thing once you have all your supplies assembled and ready to go. And then you have this fabulous, fabulous full display. So this isn't really just a kit for a finish. It's a fully realized design thought, as I like to say. So I'm so pleased with how that came out. I love that sparkle. The greenery just sets it off perfectly. One of the things I've always really loved about this piece is that great border. So then the greenery at the bottom just kind of really nicely balances out that top edge. And love, love, love them both. So that is Stacy Nash Wonderful Life Pink Keep Drum, $78. And then the tutorial for the sparkling wreath with crystal berries is up on my YouTube channel. You can find it under recent videos or under my tutorials playlist. So Stacy Nash, Wonderful Life Pinky Drum, that's the first kit. And then the second kit is the return of Cardinal Kin Plum Street samplers. This is a one-time exception to my rule. Normally when kits are retired, that's it. They don't come back, but this one had such a crazy response that we're doing it again for Christmas in July. And yeah, Cardinals, it's fabulous. What more can I say about it? These are $60 or they're $77 with the beading add-on. So that's to do the briolette edging seen here on my own finish, and that includes everything you would need for that, which would be crystal briolettes, the red seed beads to anchor them on the top, and then a number 10 milliner's needle to actually, you know, stitch the edging. And then there's an extra written supplement on the details of that, although it's so simple. You just stitch beads around the edge. And if you miss out on a beading kit, because those are usually incredibly popular, information on the beads and where to source them is included with all kits. So if you don't snag a beading kit, you can absolutely still do this. You're just going to need to grab supplies from a bead retailer, and I give you sources for that as well. So the kits for Cardinal Kin include your Legacy Linen 38 count Druid Blue, which is honestly what really makes this piece. It's that blue that makes the reds just come alive. Fabulous. This has so much visual pop. I think it always overshadows everything else, honestly. It's beautiful, but I also really love the more subtle pieces. And the red silk satin backing that I used on my own finish. Those are in all kits, as well as all reds used. One of the things I love about Cardinal Kin is that it's a winter finish, not necessarily a Christmas finish, but it is also a perfect Christmas palette. If you are a Christmas stitcher, you can reuse those threads for just about anything, because you've got some great reds, some great greens, some sparkle. Absolutely, oh, holding it upside down. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Right side up, wrong side up, you know, it's gorgeous in all the ways you can look at it. So that's Cardinal Kin. And then the two kits are currently available on my website, which is linked in the description. I hope you enjoy. And then last note on kits before we move on to whips, there are still places available in the Elizabethan Valentine class beginning September 1st. Can you tell I love sparkle? Yeah, I love sparkle and vibrant colors. These are your silks for the Elizabethan Valentine, and the class will take you through every detail. If you're a beginner, no need to worry. This is very, very doable piece because it's basically entirely diagonals over one or over two. Super simple, very familiar to a cross stitcher, and then we cover everything about thread handling, how to set up your frame, what your choices are, and all the details of finishing. I've seen a lot of finishes from the first running of this class, and honestly, they equal my own. I could not be more proud of my students. And I can't wait to see what my pin pillow students produce. That's the class that's running right now, and I know a lot of you are working away on your pin pillows. So with that, let's get on to whips. So we've been having a heat wave. I have not been feeling summer stitching at all, so I have absolutely no progress on Flag Thief to show you. I promised I would. I lied. I have heat. I hate heat. But what I have been working on very, very diligently is Eliza Townsend's work, Oh Sweet Humility by Cross Stitch Antiques. Oh, I forgot one more thing. In addition to Elizabethan Valentine kits for Plum Street samplers, chocolate hearts are also still available, and those are also in the shop. Fabulous, fabulous piece. Absolutely love it. I should have grabbed the actual finish, which I gave to my mom yesterday when I saw her, but heat zapped my brain. I don't even know my own name right now, but let's get back to whips. So Cross Stitch Antiques, Eliza Townsend's work, Oh Sweet Humility. This is the antique on the cover, and then this is where I am today. Look at all that progress. Is that fabulous or what? Specifically, ho ho ho, that is a complete verse over 1 on 45 count with Flosstube. I am going to add the year in next to my name, but I have a really superstitious thing. I don't even start the date until I am at the end. I think this is probably going to say 2024, but you know, if I see a squirrel, I get really into something else, like that could be 2025. So I have absolutely nothing in on the date, but you can see that's my verse. It's from Marvell, and yeah, it's great. So I love doing something a little more square as opposed to her very elongated verse is going to give me room to reorient and center all of these flower motifs around it, and then to give them a little more negative space. On the antique, they're very crowded into the border. I'd like them to have a little more room to breathe, so that was one of the reasons I changed the verse. And yes, I started and stopped all of those letters individually without a single carry. That's my full back, by the way. Oh, I've barely been outside because of the heat, and yet my allergies are still raging. So about the no carries thing, that is not to say that you should be doing this. Sorry about the super show off moment, by the way. So I got into the habit of having no carries at all, not even when you're going over like 2 threads, as is the case between those letters, because so many of my early stitches were glued pieces like the Britomart gasket, and when you're gluing, even a stray carry, a tiny little thread that's going not under a motif or stitched things on the back, is a barrier between your glue, your finish, and your stitching, and you don't want so much as a stray thread end to inhibit a very smooth finish. That's something that's covered in Simple Harmony tutorials on gluing. So that was something I became very serious about. No carries at all ever. But that's also very specific to glued finishes. I keep that up on my cross stitch finishes because I don't want to get into bad habits. I do still do a lot of stitching that results in glued finishes. So that's why it looks the way it does. That's not to say that I think everybody should be doing this. You're totally fine to carry your thread, especially in between letters. This is my special brand of psycho, and I'm not sitting here telling you that you're doing it wrong. But I'm pretty proud of all my no carries, so that's why we just had that whole segment. Sorry. It looks great though. It looks absolutely great. And you know, the thing is, it was fine. I got going on this and just did it, and no big deal. If you're doing over 1, use a number 12 beading needle. I also really recommend surfing. I was already using surfing for all my stitching, so that couldn't go down a thread size. But if you're scaling your needle to the stitch, it's also best to scale your thread to the stitch. Then it makes your life a lot easier. I don't recommend individually starting and stopping tiny little letters over 1. That's objectively naughty. What else do I have on here except my verse, which I can't stop talking about? So I finished both houses with their rice stitch roofs, which we talked about last time. And then on this side, I also put in the vine, which looks gorgeous. And then I started the tree. The fruits are going to be filled with satin stitch. I'm going to do that right at the end, and then I also want to change thread for that, so we'll talk about that when it actually gets to the time. I also worked on putting more structure into the border. I put in all the green for the carnation sepals in the other end. On the pattern, she's got little ball things opposite the carnations. I wasn't into the little ball things, so I'm just going to reuse these, and we'll have those on both sides. And then I also started testing colors for the carnations. I added in 1 more pink, which brings us very close to complete conversion. I will note the new color with an asterisk. in the description for those of you who are following along with this. And then I started testing colors. I'm not sure. So on Eliza Townsend's work, she's got carnations with 3 different patterns. Some of them have red, and then there's the fugitive lighter color that was probably once a blue-green or something similar. So I put in a red structure, trying to see how it looked. And of course, this is not filled out. There will be a brighter color to go with the lighter pink, but that just draws the eye so much. I'm wondering if the path forward here might not to be do all of the outside of the carnations in that lighter pink, and then just fill in with alternating patterns in the deeper colors so that this border doesn't get too bright. And then one other thing I wanted to show you is I tested out, this is my medium pink and my darkest pink. This is going to get frogged now that I've shown you on my Flosstube. It looks very, very Pepto-Bismol in person in this application. But if you soften it with the lighter pink right there, gorgeous, totally behaves. And then I shaded the fruits a little, so I've got my darker pink in some of the lower ones and then the lighter pink up there. Just small, subtle detail that adds some depth. And last note on color before we move on from Eliza Townsend. I know I get into a really granular level of detail about my changes that is probably not interesting at all. So take a look at the pink right there. That's the darkest pink. And then look at it on the outside flowers. So there, because it's got the very blue red outline shade, which is this. It deepens the color so much to the point where, honestly, I hardly recognize it when I'm using it without a red. Check it out. It's a great example of color theory, how the colors around it can really affect your perception of a color. So I'm working on putting more structure into the border. I'd like to make a decision about the carnations, and then of course I need to do the same, the tree and the vine on this side. But I really want to focus my attention on the border for the next episode, because if you've got all that carnation work right until the end, as well as putting in the red detailing on this side, that's going to get super tedious. So before I get on to all the flowers up here, I want to do my boring and repetitive work, which is why I did the verse since I last saw you. But oh, doesn't that look amazing? That looks fab. Absolutely love it. And then I did have to also shift some elements around here to keep the house and the vine out of the border and that carnation that it's next to. But that was just a cut and paste job, super easy. And then this is the pink I've added. Very, very light, but it does actually show on the 45 count Jersey Cream, which is my fabric here. And we'll be seeing more of it in the border. I think anchoring everything with that light pink is going to be what keeps the border from being too. So, Eliza Townsend's work, we will be seeing this again. I speculated last time that I might be putting this away for a while because I was reaching decision time on all of the things we've just been talking about. But as it turned out, when the time for those decisions came, I felt like I could see a way forward, and so I'm just keeping on with that because I am really enjoying this stitch. I love this. You know, it's balanced, but it's also quirky, and I love the colors, and I also love flowers. So really, really feeling that. And then, start and finish. Start and finish. Start and finish. So you've heard all about this from a couple other Flosstubers already. Susan Stanley sent Tomato Girl to Laura Duet, the cereal starter. Laura sent it to me and we all got super hepped. So this was started by an Instagram account at Inspired by Michelle Rhee. I will put that in the description. She stitched just the girl holding the tomato, and then she made the dress bright pink, which just made it come alive. I mean, this is a lovely chart. It's probably not something I would have looked at twice if I hadn't seen Michelle's version of this. And so Susan, Laura, and I all got super happed. We chose our threads, and this is my conversion, which I will put in the description, and I smashed mine out into a finish. Check it out. So this is on 38 count legacy linen Irish coffee, and yeah, I put sequins on it. So my conversion is Gobelins and 103, and then I finished it into a shaped pillow, backed it with silk taffeta. Yeah, the shape's a little awkward, but once I put it in my little stitchy tray, you're not gonna notice. And then Susan was saying on her most recent Flosstube that she's tempted to do a whole series of girls with tomatoes and give them names. So I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. I'm not gonna do a whole series of girls with tomatoes, but because of the hair not being Susan, I am going to name this one Laura and put it in my tray. And oh, does she sparkle. I could not resist adding the sequins to this. And I am going to do a tutorial on adding sequins to your cross stitch. It's so easy, but we will cover some of the style points as well, like what are your choices and what should you be looking for when you buy sequins. And that is going to be up on July 31st to close out our celebration for Christmas in July, adding some sparkle to your cross stitch. And that is my teeny tiny finish of Tomato Girl. And you can see how like a bright pink just adds so much, going with, sorry, the camera keeps trying to focus on my face, but the pink, the red, the green, they all just bring out the best in each other. And I feel like I always use the same colors for skin tone, so I went for something much more peachy than usual, just because I could. It kind of sinks into the Irish coffee, so maybe not the best choice, but you know, it's fun to try new things sometimes. You know, you got something in your stash, why not try it out? And then the last thing I want to say about this is that brown. So this is a color you may have been hearing a lot about on Flosstube. It's 103 616. And this is used in Emmeline Hotchkiss by Cross Stitch Antiques. There's a sale going on right now, hashtag Stitching Emmeline, and Contented Needleworker Kim, oh, I can't talk, is stitching this, although with her own conversion in cottons. And then Audrey Stitch Bead and Carolyn of the Curious Crafters are doing this in the 103s. And they've both been talking about this color and to some degree how ugly it is. Yeah, it's not the most prepossessing color in the world. But as I watched their Flosstubes and heard them, I had to smile because this color is actually my very old friend. You might know it as Tony the Pony on This Happy Morning, or you might know it as the sleigh from This Joyous Season. It's also the basket on the roof. Basically, it's all over my silk conversions, and it's a color that everyone should have if you stitch with 103. It doesn't look that great. I mean, it actually looks kind of unappetizing on the spool, but the thing is, it has so many undertones in it that it can do whatever you need. If you're ever stuck and you need something vaguely brownish, it will do what you need. So when I have been trying every single brown and they're all failing and nothing is, you know, playing nicely with my other colors, I turn to 616 and it always rises to the occasion. Does it look pretty? No. But then you stitch with it and it's a magic color, let me tell you. So 616, wildly underappreciated. Although I would note that both of those ladies, when they actually got to the point of stitching with 616, had kind of noticed the same thing. It can really anchor your brighter colors and add depth to your stitching. So don't overlook the ugly colors. They can really, really add a lot. Would you ever pick them out of a tray? No. Are they very useful? Yes. So that's my color thoughts for today. We're having to hear a lot of my blah, blah, blah about composition, about color. Sorry. But 12 by 12. So as many of you know, I am trying to do one stitched ornament every month with the goal of having 12 finishes, 12 new ornaments at the end of the year to hang on my Christmas tree. And I've been mostly keeping up with that. I was 1 month behind, as we discussed last time. And then I also showed you a lot of charts, asked you to weigh in. Wide range of answers there. There was not a consensus on anyone, and that's fine. I'll be stitching them all eventually, so you know, if you really want a conversion for one of those, don't worry, it's coming your way. It just might be a while. And there were a lot of votes for the 2018 Santa. A lot of people thought that yes, I was totally going to leave off the bunny so I could sequin up the snowman, because I am super predictable that way. But a lot of people also noted that they really liked the bunny. Was there a way to do both? The answer is no, not really. Sequins aren't that small and you can't go around a detailed shape like that. But it did get me thinking. I like the bunny too. It's cute. And I was like, you know, there's another one of these. And I could have sworn I had it. And I could not find it. I had actually been looking for it when I was pulling all my charts for the last episode. And then finally, it came out of hiding. Although, of course, naturally, only after I had bought another one. And that is the 2020 Santa, which also has really cute bunnies. I knew I had bought this because my friend Laura stitched it, and I thought it was adorable at the time. I was like, oh, I need that one. But it was hiding. And so, bait and switch, guys. What I actually started is the one chart I didn't show you out of all the charts I showed you last time. But I have bunnies on the brain after the discussion about snowmen, sequins, leaving off bunnies. I was like, wait, no, I still want to stitch bunnies. It's just, that's not the chart. So this is the chart, 2020 Santa Northwind. And I have a really weenie start on this. I just put in some stitches last night. So for this, I am doing a much more vibrant red than usual. This is 779 in Goblins. It is a screamer. Fabulous, fabulous red. I usually go a little more toned down on my Prairie Schooler Santas, as we will see in a minute. But for this, I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's just have fun, try it out. And I am doing Wayfarer's Cloak, Legacy Linen 38 count. I really like grays for my Prairie Schooler Santa. If there's a strong white, then I like Wayfarer's Cloak so that the white pops, like say our bunnies here. And if not, I really like Cloister Cream. Looks great. So I'm hoping to have a finish to show you next time. So this is my July 12 by 12. It was not an intentional bait and switch. I was looking for this chart. I just could not find it before the last episode. God, I knew I had it. And so right now the conversion is Goblin 779, but there will be a full conversion by next time, and I will share that with you to celebrate Christmas in July. But with that, let's get on to my 12 by 12 ornament parade. Okay, so to kick off Christmas in July, we're going to do a quick finish parade of all of the ornaments I have stitched so far this year for my 12 by 12. And there's actually an extra in here. I sneaked in one extra finish at the end of June, which you haven't seen yet. But we're going to go in chronological order, at least as close as I can remember. Chronological order. So I think we're going to start with what I definitely know was January, and this is going to be one of the coming holiday kits. It's a Prairie Schooler Santa. Don't ask me off the top of my head which year. And so there are no details about this one. Those are all exclusive to the kit, which will include the fabulous sequins. If I were stitching this again, I'd leave off the lantern and put more snowflakes and more sequins, but I'm super predictable. And then of course the kits will include fuzzy beard. I am also hoping to do a tutorial on sparkly fuzzy beards to coincide with the kit release. So First ornament, January, Prairie Schooler Santa. Fabulous snowflakes, looks amazing. And you can see what I mean about going a little darker on the red. I think it just kind of better suits the aesthetic of Prairie Schooler Santa, but Goblin 779 is one of my favorite reds. It's what I used on the Simple Harmony box. It's fabulous. And I was just like, no, why not have fun? If I end up painting the Santa, then it can go at the back of the tree. I've got lots of ornaments. And then my February finish was the test stitch on the upcoming Crystal Doves. This is going to be the other holiday kit. Ooh, we're getting some of that good sparkle in here. Light is right in here today. Oh, look at that. So this isn't actually the model. I'm going to be stitching that after summer school, and this wing is a little too far forward. It needs to be a little more to be right. But this was just testing out all the materials that I could actually obtain from my original concept, making sure that they worked before I went ahead with the kits. So first prototype, Crystal Doves, and then our first two ornaments are going to be the coming holiday kit releases. Speaking of kit releases, by the way, we're having a big blowout for Christmas in July because the only remaining kits on the schedule this year are Thomas for late fall, the turkey Thanksgiving stitch, and then the two holiday kits, which I hope you're excited about because I am so excited about. And then number 3, March, Holly Jolly by Not Forgotten Farms, and on the ones that have conversions, so all of these basically, I will link to those episodes in the description if you'd like to pick out a Christmas in July ornament stitch for yourselves. This is on 5363 with Salsaphine, so super tiny, and I also embellished this with some 2mm crystal pearls because why not? And oh, this guy is so fun. I can't wait to hang him on the tree. And I finished with a little bright red silk satin on the back. That's the same one that's on the Cardinal Kin kits, and that's Holly Jolly, Not Forgotten Farms. And then for April, we'll applique from What a Curly Life, and yeah, added sequins because why wouldn't I add sequins? Ornament number 5. This was supposed to be May and June until I pulled out a June finish at the last minute. This is Brenda Gervais, Snow Magical. I did my embellished ornament hanger with crystal pendants. That's a tutorial that I have up. I will link it in the description. It's a really fun way to add some jazz to your ornaments. This one might have a little too much jazz because I also put sequins all over the stitch itself, but I go really over the top for Christmas and I'm not ashamed. So yeah, he's got sequins, he's got a fabulous blue sweater, and this one also has a conversion, which I will put in the description. Brenda Gervais, Snow Magical. So that is May. And then for June, we have a surprise, start and finish. The Cheswick Company recently released some new patterns and kits. I got a little squished in the mail, but you get the idea. And this is Charles the Christmas Goose. When I saw him, I was just like, oh, he is so cute. I have to do that. And these are really, really quick to work up. I mean, I did this in an afternoon. So I was able to squeeze in a 6-1 to bring me up to speed. So I now have 6 ornaments current through July. And then I'm going to do my Prairie Schooler that I just showed you for June. And this is Charles. So I substituted a few of the felts. I gave him a different one for his waistcoat and for his feet and beak. I felt like I had the perfect colors there. But otherwise, he's as kitted. I bought the kit for this because, yeah, mohair is not one thing that I have lying around in my stash. Oh, isn't he so fun? He's just goofy and hilarious. I love it. So that's Charles the Christmas Goose. That's part of my haul, but he's also my June finish. So that's my 12 by 12 ornament parade, which I hope you enjoyed. Maybe you got some ideas for things you'd like to do for your own Christmas in July, or I don't know, Cardinal or Wonderful Life Pink Drama Sparkling Wreath. Also excellent. excellent things to do for Christmas in July. Like I forgot that I'm supposed to be selling things, but and then I do have one other little finish to show you before we get onto the Britomart sampler, because oh, the Britomart sampler is back, and in a very, very big way. I kind of got over the whole creative block I was having with that. And the last thing I have is, so I showed you this when I bought it some time ago. Jackie DePlessis makes some wonderful mother of pearl pieces, and I bought two of her pink heaps. One was the tulip, one was the leaf. And so in all the chaos of kitting here, this and the mother of pearl pieces became separated from the rest of the kit, and I could not find them. So I was like, whatever, I'll just proceed and with my own materials, because the beautiful pink that's included in the kit is actually a perfect match to the interior of my casket. I want this for a casket toy. So like, well, I'll do something, a different pink for contrast. I didn't quite have the right materials or the instructions, so I made it up as I went along. And so the finish is, you know, not as good as Jackie's. I just, like, disclaimer here, that's my fault. I may end up remaking this at some point once I source all the proper materials, because I do want to do a different pink than the materials included in the kit. But look at that. Isn't that just gorgeous? So my real problem here is that my ribbon doesn't quite match my silk, and this probably won't show on camera, but because my shape also isn't quite perfect, you kind of see that it's still, I may not remake this. I mean, really what you see is the mother of pearl, which is just gorgeous. And this again was also quite simple to put together. I think I did this in an afternoon. So I actually had the full kit on the leaf with everything all together. But you know how it is, you get really excited about a project. I was like, no, I want to do the tulip. I'm going to do it right now, even though I don't have the instructions or all of this stuff. I'm just going to make it up. And yeah, you know, there's a reason you should follow the instructions. It would have looked neater. But there's no diminishing how fabulously detailed and glorious that is. So Jackie doesn't have an online store, but you can email her, you can go to her website, and I will put all of that in the description, because this is just beautiful and I absolutely love it. So that's going to be a little treasure for my casket. I'm on a roll recently with the heart I did last time. If you haven't seen that, make sure to watch the last episode, because that was a fabulous finish, even if I do say so myself. So those are my surprise starts and finishes. Tomato Girl, Charles the Christmas Goose, and then my beautiful tulip pink heap from Jackie DePlessis. And so let's get on to the Britomart sampler, which is my biggest ongoing way. I had not put a single stitch in this since April, and I was staring down making some decisions that I didn't want to make, so lots of procrastination. I'm glad to report that I am back on the train and it is looking glorious. So I'm not showing this to you on the frame because we are officially past the length on which I can show the whole thing on the frame. Excited. Stop with talk, show you the stitching. This is where I am. So I've finally started band 6. I thought I was going to be done with band 6 back in April, and then that didn't happen. But let's talk about what's new at the top. That is a completed band 2. Oh, I thought I was never going to get there, but oh my gosh, it looks fabulous. Look at that shine. That's why I'm waving this around, so you can see how shiny and glorious that is. Oh, I love it. So I added in, sorry, I'm trying to get this close to the camera. I added in all the leaves that were missing. And then the last time we talked about this, which was quite a while ago, what used to be here was bugging me. And those were a blue element. I'll insert a picture here to show you what was there. And it was twinge meat. So one of the interesting things I've found about designing a band sampler is how rigid the form is compared to my casket stitching, which is very, very free form in comparison. You know, you're working in this very set regimented order, and your perception of the whole changes as you keep adding things. So a decision can look totally right in isolation, and then once everything else goes in, you're sitting there going, oh crud, that is not right. So when I was stitching this and I had nothing beneath it, I felt like this band needed blue. Because without it, it didn't relate to the band above it. Of course, there's blue all over the rest of this sampler. So once you start adding that in, you see you've got a blue overload, and you absolutely do not need blue there. It actually looks much more effective just with loads and loads of pink to balance out that blue, which is kind of a color bully, actually. So once I made that realization, I was able to frog that and then just design some little pink strawberry flowers to put in there. And that, I felt, just completed the band perfectly. I'm loving it. So that means that bands 1 through 3 are completely finished. Band 4 just needs needle lace on these 4 elements. That will go in last. And on the needle lace, that's strictly optional. As you can see, this looks like a complete motif without that. That's true for everywhere I am going to use needle lace on this sampler. So if needle lace doesn't sound like something you want to mess with, don't worry, it's optional. You're not going to have an unfinished looking Britomart sampler if you decide that you don't really want to go there with needle lace. And then I was going to come and put the band in the border in for band number 5, which is also missing its needle lace for the rose. But as I said, my understanding of what to do keeps evolving as you add things. And one of the places where that's been most true has been the borders. So I decided, rather than put something in, which I'm gonna frog as soon as I see my next band, I just punted on the borders for 5 and 6, and I'm going to make my choices once I'm looking at a complete Britomart sampler, because we're actually getting very close to a complete Britomart sampler. Band number 6, which is going to be Carnations and Lover's Knots. It's one of the most common bands you see from this century. I've always loved it, so it's going on this sampler. Oh, band number 6 is actually going to be the last band. After this, it's just verse, name, date, which is about 30 stitches high. So we are almost at full length here. The complete sampler should be about 19 inches tall, I think. So, ooh, we're getting there. And so then band number 6 is going to be much more heavy on reversible cross than anything that has happened previously. There is reversible cross in 4 and 5, but they're dominated by other stitches. This is going to be a little different. There's going to be a lot of reversible cross. You usually do see a very densely stitched band at the bottom of a lot of samplers of this general type. Now, to be fully historically accurate, that should strictly be Montenegrin stitch, not reversible cross. However, this is also going to be a class, and I did not want to spend the rest of my life diagramming all the different paths for Montenegrin stitch that I would need for the class. So we're going in for the much easier reversible cross stitch and said, you know, sometimes these decisions are functional, and that's one of the great things about designing your own. You can do what you want for totally legitimate reasons. Like, I don't want to do 7,000 diagrams for Montenegrin stitch. So Montenegrin stitch actually gets kind of a bad rap that I don't think it necessarily deserves. It's really easy to work in a straight line, and we're actually going to be doing that on this sampler. So in between the rows of letters, surprise, surprise, no alphabet on this sampler. You can put one in if you wish. There will be a full charted alphabet with it, so you can personalize it. You could also just put an alphabet in. That's fine. I'm not doing one. We all know how I feel about letters. But anyways, in between the letter bands, there are going to be single rows of Montenegrin stitch. So if you're just working plain, left to right, straight across, very simple. You just add a couple of extra passes. It's not that different from double back stitch or long arm cross stitch. Where Montenegrin stitch gets a bad name is when you shift the path in a different direction, because you have to figure out what your pattern of stitches is to keep the pattern consistent front and back. It's not rocket science. It just takes getting in the mindset. But if you'd like to be strictly historically accurate here when stitching the Britomart sampler, or anything else, there's a great resource for that, and it is Amy Mitten's book, Autopsy of the Montenegrin Stitch, in which she has figured out all the possible paths for Montenegrin stitch, the ways in which the stitch can change direction, and she has fully diagrammed them front and back. So this is available on Amy's website. It is the definitive resource on Montenegrin stitch. If it seemingly is every possible path you could take. So somebody already figured that out and diagrammed it for you. So if you are afraid of Montenegrin stitch, you've got something where you want to use it and it's not just in a straight across application like we're doing on Britomart, then Amy Mitten's book will see you through it. It's not that crazy, truly. Like, don't be scared of Montenegrin stitch. It's fine. But getting back to band 6, so I don't actually have a ton to show you here. This is what we're really going to be talking about. So I finished the center dividing element, and actually making your own choices on such a common band is kind of interesting, because there are infinite interpretations of it to study and think about, well, how do I want to do this? How do I want to do that? So it's all over Sampled Lives, Fitzwilliam. I didn't count how many incidences there are in this book, but a ton, because really, really, really common bands. This is just one example where the same band is largely done in satin stitch, framed by what is, it looks like Montenegrin stitch. So glorious. Lover's knot, carnations braiding around it from it, and then center dividing element. But there are a million different permutations about how you shape the details of the carnations. How do you fill in the lover's knot? What stitches do you use on all of these? What are your colors? How aggressive is your diagonal? So I have basically just clipped mine off on the corner to give it a very rectangular shape. It's meant to relate it to the previous band, which has a very rectangular framing element. But these are all decisions that you make, and because I'm not following anyone's sampler's interpretation of this band, I'm starting from scratch of all those choices. So how do you shade? What are your colors? What are your stitches? Like, how exactly do you shape all of these elements is really interesting. It feels like a choose your own adventure book, but a choose your own adventure book that is 10,000 pages long. So I'm having fun, but it certainly is less straightforward than I expected it to be. And example A is the shading on the carnations. So I loved what I did here, and I knew I wanted to do the same for my pink carnations. My carnations are going to be pink and blue, so this band will be pink, blue, and green. What a surprise, looking at the rest of the sampler. And I thought, oh, I don't know, is it going to look too similar to the previous band if I just do the same shading pattern? What if I went for an L shape in a different orientation? So I started that out and pretty quickly realized that that's wrong. It doesn't really look anything like a carnation. And then reverted to the more obvious shading pattern that we're seeing here. I do also want to add in the overstitching with that bright green, because it just brings those pinks alive like you would not believe. So that's kind of the thing about testing options, is that something can sound really reasonable in your head, and then you get it on your piece and you're like, no, that's pretty obviously wrong. Why did I think that was a good idea? But it's all part of the creative journey. It's not a straight line, and I think from every failure you learn something. So I wanted to leave that in just to show you, all the twists and turns of this journey, which you're mostly not seeing because, you're not sitting there stitching with me. So all of the things that I cast aside in Frog, for the most part, aren't seen on Flosstube. You see the finished product, but there's a whole lot of this going on instead. But again, part of the creative process. It's not a straight line, and to me it's part of what makes the journey so interesting. But reversible, because I mentioned reversible cross. Let's take a look at the back. Oh. Reversible stitching has grown on me so much. At first I just thought it was super tedious, but as I've gotten more used to it, I've gotten faster. It's obviously still slower than one-sided stitching, but the dramatic reveal of the back is just such a wow moment that, oh, I'm into it. So front, back, looks just like the front, except for here I have used double back stitch to fill that center line, so it's just a parallel line of back stitching on the back, whereas in the front you are seeing full color filling in that band. So this doesn't look like very much right now, but it hopefully will look like more of a band by the next time I see you, because so when I was struggling back with the revisions to these two bands, I think I trusted that I was going to get there eventually, but I couldn't see what my way forward was going to be. I'm past that point, and now I feel like I can see the full sampler again, and I believe that it's going to be amazing. So I'm really, really pleased, and I can't wait to get back to this. I love the Carnations and Lover's Knot band, so I can't wait to see this, which will of course then be almost all the sampler, and we'll just be on to first name date. So I am really, really, really getting there. And then I am also going to do one other thing before I see you again, and that's going to be that I am finally going to lace the sides. Distortion is starting to creep in here. I ironed this right before filming, so I don't think you're really going to be able to see it on camera, but there's some distortion and I want to pull that out at the sides. I think that this is still something I could deal with after the fact through blocking, and I will block this piece when I'm done regardless, but I want to take a chance to finish this and find out that there's more distortion in here than I can block out, so we're staying safe. And then one other thing about the Britomart sampler and the Britomart suite, which it is a part of. There's a page on my website that shows the Britomart suite. That's the title of the page. It's visible on the sidebar, and it looks at the Britomart casket, the Britomart sampler, and the accompanying smalls, which are Queen Anne's pin pillow and the Elizabethan Valentine. Oh, Mother of Pearl Threadwinder, also from Jackie Duplessis. She does all kinds of fabulous things with Mother of Pearl. She also does these little baskets. I've got to get one of those. They are great. So those are the objects that comprise the Britomart suite. I've called it that because those are things that would make up a full 17th century needlework education. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there was a broken link on there. There was supposed to be a page that you could click on that would take you to a full synopsis of the story of the casket with photos of each side and an explainer of what was going on each of those. That link was broken. It said a full explainer of the story can be seen here, and then you could not click on here. That's been fixed. So if you're curious about the Britomart casket as seen behind me, or the other objects that make up the Britomart suite, then that is now all working, and you can find that on my website. So lots of progress on the Britomart sampler, which I'm so excited about. One last look before we see it again, which will be next time, because I've been looking forward to this band since the beginning, and I'm really excited to finally be there, which is real close to the end. That's just exciting stuff. That journey has had a lot of starts and stops to it, so kind of mentally feeling like I'm over the hump has been huge for me. But with that, let's get on to haul. I do have haul. And in addition to the two pieces of haul I already showed you, which were the Tomato Girl chart from Sub Rosa and the Charles the Christmas Goose kit from the Cheswick Company, I bought or pre-ordered the Fox and Rabbit sampler box, which I'm really excited to arrive. I know Karen and Bran are going to put together something fantastic. That is fully sold out, but I think we're planning on doing more in future, so make sure you're on their mailing list basically. And oh, that's going to be cool. So I will show it when it comes. And then I also got 2 samplers from the Wishing Thorn. The first was Jane Parson, 1841. So this isn't actually something I would have picked based on this photo, but Catherine Adrian stitched it as showed on Flosstube stitching and costume. I'll link it in the description. It is beautiful. She did it in the wools. I would definitely do my own silk conversion, but you see much more of the pink in her finish. I mean, it's there in this photo. She did all the called for, but what kind of leaps to the eye is just this really beautiful soft color palette. And I love florals, I love birds, I love funky grass, so that kind of ticks all my boxes. Would definitely leave off the alphabet at the top because we know my feelings about letters, but that's what's going to make this next one really entertaining. Elizabeth Hall, 1809. It's a Weston School sampler, which is, oh look, all letters and alphabets, and I hate those. But what I do like is personalization, and this is a ton of complete alphabets in different fonts with corresponding capitals, aka really useful ready-made things personalizing. If I had had this, I wouldn't have had to spend forever figuring out a capital A for this happy morning. So highly recommend if personalization is your thing too and you hate figuring out your own fonts. So useful thing to have. Elizabeth Hall, 1809. I'll link both of those in the description. And then the last thing I bought were 2 books. I had to order these from England from Jackie Carey. If you don't know the name Jackie Carey, you really should. So she wrote and published one of my favorite reference books for 17th century embroidery outside of Trisha Thistlethread's Cabinet of Curiosities Part 1 and 2, which are still like the ultimate, but Elizabethan Stitches and then her Sweet Bags book as well are 2 references that I have owned for years and consulted often, as you can probably see from all the marks in these. There's no better resource on all the braid stitches in particular. They're fully diagrammed out. I taught myself all the braid stitches from this book. If you have any interest in 17th century embroidery, you should own Elizabethan Stitches. Not to mention it has beautiful, detailed, close-up pictures. So if you are not close to any of the museums that have these things, most of us, and won't get in to study them, you can see all the really fabulous little stitchy details. It's one of the things I really appreciate about Jackie Carey's books. Close-up detail shots in full color and excellent focus. Elizabethan Stitches. That's not new, I've owned that forever. But what started me on this was she has a book out that is a deep dive into a medieval embroidered almanac. Has this crazy stitching on it. Yeah, what did I say about crazy close-up detail shots? Love it. So I haven't had a chance to read it. It's called MS 8932, which I think is its accession number at the V&A. But it's basically a really deep dive into everything that was used in this, into how to create all of the effects, her study of it. It's a crazy, essentially, research paper on one really extraordinary object. So I had to own that. And then when I was looking on her website, so her books usually aren't available on Amazon, or if they are, the prices are kind of crazy. Go straight to our website, which is the Carey Company. If you're here in the US, you will pay heavy shipping, but that just means buy more books to make it worth it, because she's got great ones that you need to own. And the other one, oh, I saw this, and I was like, oh, how do I not own this? Beads and Braids by Jackie Carey. So interesting thing about Jackie Carey, she actually got her start as weaver, moved into braid making, and then embroidery just kind of turned into a random sideline for her, and yet she's published like one of the best books on this. It's one of those things that just makes you feel really, really inadequate. Okay, so I need another hobby like I need a hole in the head. I've got my hands full with all of my projects and all of my things that I dream of stitching and my own designs and all the stuff. But I have done a fair amount of braiding. I have a full kumihimo set up, and all her variations on adding beads, which you know I love, to cool braid structures, was just like, ooh. So am I gonna get super into braiding? No, but I couldn't resist buying this. And as I was reading it, I was thinking, you know, sorry, I'm trying to find one of the photos where you don't see the braiding instructions, because buy the book yourself, guys. Just gotta show one page. I see all kinds of fantastic, super fancy ornament hangers in my future. It's not like I don't stick enough junk on my ornaments already, but Over the Top is my theme music when it comes to Christmas, and Jackie Carey has just provided me yet another avenue to go totally nuts. So beads and braids, super fun. I've done this type of braiding before, but I would say that her instructions are very clear to follow as long as you know the basics of kumihimo, which is what they're all based on. So that's Japanese disc braiding. You might be familiar with it, and I'm sure there are tutorials all over YouTube. So these were both purchased directly from Jackie Carey. I will link her website in the description. Highly recommend all of her books, which I love. They're great practical resources. So like Sampled Lives, which I talk about all the time, is great eye candy. It's great academic information on band samplers. It doesn't tell you how to do any of this stuff. If you're interested in the doing, Jackie here. Less so on counted work. It's more the fancy needle lace and braid stitches and super fun stuff. But you know I love that. So yeah, Jackie Carey. Love her books. And then with that, let's get to the giveaway. So as I was telling you, I was looking for the Prairie Schooler 2020 Santa chart. I knew I had it before the last Flosstube. I could not find it anywhere. We've all been there, right? So I went and I bought another one. And then as soon as it shipped, I found the one that I owned. I felt pretty silly, but you know, great giveaway to celebrate Christmas in July. And then I have added what's just a little remnant, but hold on a second. As you can see, this would still give you very generous margins to stitch a Prairie Schooler Santa. So it's a remnant, but it's basically everything you need. So this is 38 count Legacy Linen Wayfarer's Cloak, which is what I'm going to be using to stitch my own, and the chart. And that's my giveaway for today. The keyword is Santa. Am I so creative or what? So just use the keyword in your comment to enter the giveaway. I will draw a winner on the next episode, and you can enter this from anywhere in the world. This is super light, so not an issue. And that's my giveaway to kick off Christmas in July, which I'm really excited about. I hope you are really excited about. Hope you might be wanting to do a drum and or some cardinals. Oh. No, you know what? I'm showing this because the cardinals kind of tend to overshadow everything with that glorious, glorious blue. So it's final reminder, Stacy, Nash, Wonderful Life, Pinky Drum, Cardinal Kin, as well as the previous release Elizabethan Valentine and Chocolate Hearts. I'm more like I can't help showing that constantly. I'm sorry to be obnoxious, but I really do love this piece. Sparkle, 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 sparkle. All currently available. That was the third binder. All currently available on my website. And that brings me to the end of this episode. So for next time, I'm hoping to have a Christmas in July finish on my own version of the Prairie Schooler Santa. And then hopefully some wonderful, wonderful progress on the Britomart sampler. I am so excited to see the carnation band come together. It really doesn't look like very much right now, but I can see it in my head, so I know it's gonna be just glorious. I'm feeling it, so I'm hoping that I will just be blazing on progress on that, as well as Christmas in July stitching and Eliza Townsend. So have a great July. Stitch all of the things, whether that's Christmas in July or not. I will be back with you in 2 weeks, and until then, happy stitching.